Wow. So Nigeria's oil and gas sector, right? It's been a pretty wild week over there.
Yeah, it has.
I mean, last Tuesday, April 1st, President Tinubu, he didn't just like shuffle things around at NNPC Ltd.
Right.
He basically like flipped the whole table over.
He did. He did.
Like a total top to bottom overhaul.
Yeah.
And it sent shockwaves, right? Like from Abuja all the way to Lagos.
Absolutely.
You could just feel it, like the whole country kind of holding its breath.
It's palpable. Yeah.
And I mean, the reactions have been all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Cautious optimism, but also a lot of anxiety.
Right. Like a healthy dose of anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It really does highlight, how deeply intertwined NNPC Ltd's fate is with Nigeria's overall well-being,
Right.
like economically, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that instant mix of hope and worry, right?
Yeah.
After a simple change in leadership,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes
Yeah, it really does.
about just how much weight this institution carries.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're diving deep into today, right? It's
Yeah.
like the massive challenges and the potential, right?
Yeah.
The turning points facing this newly appointed group CEO of NNPC Ltd, Bashir Bayo Ojulari.
Right.
Or BBO, I think we'll call him BBO. Just
Your BBO makes
the
it
thing is
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, concise.
Absolutely.
And our guide for this whole exploration is this really insightful article from Premium Times, right? NNPC's Last Chance, The Rough Road Ahead for Bayo Ojulari,
Right.
by Dan D. Kunle.
Good piece.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
our mission today, right?
Yes.
We want to cut through all the noise,
Absolutely.
and get to those fundamental issues like really plaguing Nigeria's oil and gas sector. We want to understand why this change in leadership is such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Such a crucial point in time.
Yeah.
And just how massive of a task BBO has in trying to revitalize what the Premium Times calls, and rightly so, I think, a faltering oil giant. Faltering. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a new guy in charge, right?
No, it's not.
It's not just a new person. Like, President Tinubu gave this incoming board a very clear directive.
Yes, he did.
He stated, and I'm quoting directly here,
Right.
restructuring is crucial for enhancing operational efficiency, restoring investor confidence, boosting local content, driving economic growth, and advancing gas commercialization and diversification.
Wow, it's a lot.
That's like a huge to-do list, right?
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the immense pressure and the expectations on this new leadership.
It does indeed.
Right.
And, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
that directive is a pretty profound signal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's basically saying that the highest levels of government recognize
Right.
that the status quo just won't cut it.
Yeah, can't go on.
Can't go on.
Right.
But he didn't stop there, did he?
No, he did not.
He also laid out another critical task.
He did, that's right. A strategic portfolio review
Right.
of NNPC-operated and joint venture assets
Yeah.
to ensure alignment with value maximization objectives.
Right.
And the article frames these directives as a direct result of years of what they call accumulated dysfunction.
Accumulated dysfunction.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, look, we need to take a hard look at everything and fix what's broken.
Yeah, like get down to the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. That portfolio review, right? That's really telling. That shows a desire to really dig into the specifics of NNPC's holdings, find inefficiencies, areas where value's been lost.
Right.
It's like they understand that simply producing oil isn't enough.
Yeah.
It needs to be done strategically, profitably, for Nigeria's benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we set the stage, right?
We have.
New CEO, clear mandate. But to really grasp the size of the challenge BBO faces, we need to understand the recent history. And the article paints a pretty concerning picture, right?
Yeah, it does.
Of a sector that's been underperforming for a while now.
Absolutely. For over a decade, it argues.
Wow.
Nigeria's oil and gas sector has been lagging behind compared to other nations.
Right.
While other resource-rich countries were adapting, to shifts in the energy landscape, discovering new reserves, developing comprehensive energy strategies.
Right.
Nigeria seems to have been just treading water.
Just kind of stuck.
Yeah, stuck.
Yeah.
And that decade of stagnation has cost them billions.
Wow.
In potential revenue.
Right.
And it's weakened their global energy position.
Yeah, for sure.
Really.
And the fallout from that lack of progress
Right.
has been huge, hasn't it?
It has been.
I mean, we've seen those big international oil companies.
Yeah, the IOCs.
Yeah, the IOCs, right.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting disillusioned.
Yeah.
And the article points to things like insecurity in the Niger Delta, inconsistent regulations that keep changing, and just sudden policy reversals as the main reasons they're selling off assets.
Yeah, and they call that loud warnings.
Loud warnings. Yeah,
it's a good way to put it, because it is a warning, you know?
Yeah.
When established players with all that capital and expertise start pulling out, it signals a real lack of confidence in the investment environment.
For sure.
It not only impacts current production, but it really jeopardizes future exploration.
Right, right.
And the development of new fields.
Yeah, yeah.
And that divestment creates a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But also a huge challenge for local players to step in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big gap to fill.
Yeah, and then the article gives some pretty stark figures on oil production.
Yeah, it does.
Like, it highlights this drop, right? From over 2.6 million barrels per day back in the early 2000s to a current average of just 1.7 million barrels per day.
It's a steep decline.
Yeah, and even that 1.7 million, it's not even guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's constantly under threat from, oil theft, pipeline vandalism, sabotage, unrest in those oil-producing communities.
Yeah, those disruptions, they're a massive drain on resources.
Yeah.
You're not just losing the oil, but the instability, the increased security costs.
Right.
You make it so hard to attract long-term investment.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And it's not just crude oil either, is it?
No, it's not.
And natural gas production is also declining sharply.
It is.
And that Nigeria LNG plant at Bonny Island. A major facility designed to produce 22 million metric tons of LNG annually.
Huge facility.
Yeah, huge. It's operating way below capacity.
Yeah.
Simply because it can't get enough natural gas feedstock. And the article notes this drying up of investment across the whole value chain.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And the underperformance of Nigeria LNG.
Yeah.
That's a huge missed opportunity in a global market that's increasingly demanding natural gas.
Especially now, yeah. So, what's the root cause of all this decline?
The article points to a trust deficit. Which seems like a pretty crucial factor.
Yeah, trust. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a breakdown of trust on multiple fronts. The communities in the oil-producing regions, they feel marginalized. They haven't seen the benefits of oil extraction translate into any real improvements.
In their lives.
In their lives, yeah. Then you've got the joint venture partners, where NNPC collaborates with international companies, sharing investment and risk. They're frustrated by NNPC Ltd's failure to meet its funding obligations. Consistently, yeah. And that lack of trust. It's like a hidden tax on every barrel produced.
Adding to costs.
Deterring investment.
For sure.
And potential investors. They're hesitant.
Of course.
To commit capital to a sector with such fundamental issues.
Yeah, makes sense.
Even after the Petroleum Industry Act, the PIA. Which aimed to reform this sector. The perception of NNPC Ltd. As a truly commercially driven entity hasn't really taken hold.
Not quite,
Not quite.
Okay, so it sounds like BBO is stepping into like a really tough situation here.
He is.
A sector with so many challenges.
Absolutely.
But the article does offer a glimmer of hope, right?
It does.
It mentions a potential window to reset the narrative. But it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, it's not going to be a walk in the park at all.
Not at all.
The article really underscores how massive the task is that BBO faces. But appointing a new CEO, it does present a chance to signal a fresh start, a real commitment to addressing these problems. But that window of opportunity, it's brief and narrow, as the article puts it.
Brief and narrow.
Yeah.
So what should BBO's top priorities be?
Well, the article outlines several key steps. And the first one seems absolutely essential.
What's that?
Rebuilding confidence.
Yeah, trust.
Right.
Exactly. Like we talked about.
Yeah, and the article stresses this isn't something you do with just words,
Right.
Or PR efforts.
Yeah, it's got to be real action.
It demands action, demonstrable action.
Yeah.
That shows a real commitment to change.
Yeah, for sure.
He needs to regain the trust of the staff,
Right.
the board of directors, the National Assembly,
right.
the oil-producing communities,
Yeah.
the IOC partners, the PSC managers,
Right.
the off-takers,
Right.
the financial institutions.
So many different people.
A long list, and they all have their own concerns.
For sure.
Their own expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a cornerstone of that whole confidence-building process,
Right.
according to the article, is revitalizing the upstream segment.
Yes, the actual exploration and production of oil and gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Getting back to basics.
Exactly. The article specifically mentions NNPC E&P assets in the Benin Basin and other areas that urgently need attention and investment.
Yeah.
There are dormant fields that need to be reactivated, brought back online.
Yeah.
And then there's the case of OML 11, a key oil-producing area that's been tied up.
Yeah, for a while.
Due to environmental and community disputes.
Right, a lot of complications.
Yeah, the article suggests that resolving OML 11 in a transparent and collaborative way could be a powerful symbol of a new approach.
A more inclusive approach.
A more inclusive approach, exactly.
Yeah. And the article also mentions those deep water blocks in the Atlantic Basin, OPLs 245, 321, and 323.
Right.
Potentially very valuable, but currently dormant.
Yeah.
It seems like if they can overcome the legal hurdles there, unlocking those could be a game changer.
They could be huge.
Yeah.
Those deep water blocks represent a lot of untapped potential.
Right.
Successfully navigating those legal complexities could significantly reposition Nigeria's long-term oil production.
Right. Really boost their prospects.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, you know. The legal, the regulatory, the operational challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
They're all intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And moving beyond just oil, right?
Yeah.
The article really pushes for Nigeria to prioritize its natural gas reserves.
It does.
It argues that a comprehensive gas strategy is long overdue.
It is.
Yeah.
Nigeria has huge natural gas reserves.
Right.
But they've been largely undeveloped. Underutilized.
Yeah.
A well-defined gas strategy.
Yeah.
Focused on meeting domestic energy needs, power generation, industrialization, and exploring export opportunities.
Yeah.
That could be a major catalyst for growth.
For sure.
And diversification.
Yeah. Moving beyond just crude oil exports.
Exactly.
Okay. Shifting gears a bit.
Yep.
The article then delves into the midstream and downstream sectors.
Right.
The pipelines, the refineries, the distribution networks. And the main message here seems to be less control from the federal government and NNPC.
That's a key argument.
Yeah.
It suggests that for too long, there's been this urge to control the entire value chain.
Right. The whole thing.
But the reality is the private sector's already invested heavily in midstream and downstream infrastructure.
Right, like depots, pipelines.
Yeah, depots, pipelines, filling stations. And the article makes a crucial point about avoiding state-funded competition that might lack the commercial rigor of these private ventures.
Yeah, which are often financed with high-interest loans.
Exactly. They're taking on a lot of risk.
Yeah, for sure.
So the recommendation is a reformed NNPC Ltd. Basically withdraws from things like fuel importation, retail marketing, operating depots, and focuses on regulation, quality standards, and maintaining strategic reserves.
Right.
It's a pretty big shift.
Yeah, it is, from how things have been done.
Yeah, it's about the state becoming an enabler, you know, a regulator, fostering a level playing field.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to dominate every part of the value chain.
Makes sense.
It allows private capital, innovation, expertise to flourish in areas where they're already invested.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the article highlights the Dangote refinery as a prime example of what private capital can do.
There's a great example.
Yeah, a massive $20 billion project.
Yeah, the largest industrial project in Africa.
Huge. And the article suggests that NNPC Ltd. Should look to collaborate with ventures like this.
Yeah, not compete.
Rather than trying to compete.
Yeah. It suggests exploring things like crude for products exchanges, potential equity swaps, long-term crude oil supply contracts.
Right.
This kind of strategic collaboration leverages the strengths of both the state-owned entity and the private sector.
Yeah, for sure.
It's presented as a potential blueprint.
Yeah, like a model.
Yeah, a model for future partnerships.
Okay. Turning our attention inward now.
Okay.
The article doesn't hold back when describing NNPC Ltd's internal workings.
No, it doesn't.
It calls it a sprawling, bureaucratic behemoth.
Behemoth. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
The article is quite critical of the current structure, calling it overstaffed, inefficient, burdened by redundant subsidiaries.
Right. And it also points to weaknesses in accountability and a lack of digital transformation.
It's lagging behind in that area.
For sure.
For sure.
So what's the solution?
Well, a comprehensive audit seems to be a top priority.
Right, of the whole organization.
Yeah, the article emphasizes the need for a thorough, independent audit of staffing levels, operations, procurement. Streamlining, it argues, is essential for the company's survival.
It's not just a good idea.
No.
It's necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the issue of production costs.
Right, the cost of producing each barrel of oil in Nigeria.
Which is way too high, according to the article.
It's alarmingly high.
Yeah.
Reportedly over $30 a barrel.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a crucial metric.
Yeah.
At that cost.
Yeah.
Nigerian crude becomes less competitive.
Right, especially with fluctuating prices.
Exactly.
Yeah. BBO has to reduce those costs.
Drastically,
Eliminate waste.
Yeah.
Improve efficiency.
Right.
To be in line with international standards.
Yeah. How does that compare to other oil-producing nations?
Often their costs are significantly lower.
Wow. So that's a real disadvantage.
It is a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to compete.
For sure.
Yeah.
And finally, when it comes to leadership, the article emphasizes BBO's style.
Yeah, his personal leadership style.
Yeah.
It says he needs to be decisive, transparent, maintain high professional standards, and crucially, stay insulated from politics.
That's huge.
It is.
Keeping the politics out of it.
Yeah, that's one of the most significant hurdles.
Right.
The article stresses that performance.
Yeah.
Based on clear metrics, commercial realities, that has to guide decision-making.
Not political whims.
Not political considerations, exactly.
Yeah, if he can do that, that would be a huge change.
It could be transformative, not just for NNPC,
right,
but for how state-owned enterprises are managed in Nigeria.
Yeah, for sure.
It would set a precedent.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right, and the article concludes with this real sense of urgency.
It does.
Emphasizing the limited time BBO has to make progress on these reforms.
Right.
Suggesting a window of just 12 to 18 months.
That's not a lot of time.
No, it's not.
Especially with such deep-rooted challenges.
Yeah, and the article points out that as the next election nears, vested interests are going to regroup.
Yeah, resist change.
It's change even harder.
Absolutely. It'll become an even bigger fight.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why presidential backing is so crucial.
Right.
Tinubu needs to not just appoint capable people, but protect them.
Right. Give them the space to operate.
Give them autonomy, shield them from influence.
Yeah, and hold those who sabotage accountable.
Accountability is key.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And the final part of the article really lays out how serious this situation is.
It does.
It paints this picture of Nigeria potentially becoming irrelevant in the energy sector.
Despite all its resources.
Yeah, despite all the oil and gas.
It's a stark warning.
Yeah, it is.
It's a reminder that the world is changing.
Right.
The energy landscape is shifting. Quickly. And if Nigeria doesn't act now, they risk being left behind.
For sure.
Yeah.
So the article frames BBO's task as rescuing a country.
Rescuing a country, wow.
If he can restore credibility, drive efficiency, instill a commercial focus, NNPC Ltd could be a leading force again.
It could be.
But failure could lead to huge losses.
Yeah, of revenue, jobs, relevance.
The stakes are so high.
They couldn't be higher.
Yeah, this isn't just about one company.
No, it's not.
It's about Nigeria's future.
It's about their economic security, stability, their place in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So to sum it all up,
Yeah.
BBO is stepping into a really demanding role.
He is.
At the helm of NNPC Ltd. facing a ton of challenges.
A lot of challenges, all interconnected.
Yeah, he's got to rebuild trust,
right,
revitalize the upstream sector, formulate a gas strategy, partner with the private sector,
right,
reform NNPC internally, reduce production costs.
And all within a very short time frame.
Yeah, 12 to 18 months.
And a politically charged environment.
Right, with everyone watching.
Yeah, the pressure is immense.
Yeah, it is.
His success will depend on his ability to be decisive, transparent,
right,
and prioritize commercial sense over politics.
Yeah, that's key.
It's a pivotal moment for Nigeria's energy future.
It really is.
Absolutely.
So, on that note, here's a final thought for you all to consider.
Okay.
Given this global shift towards cleaner energy, what strategic pivots beyond traditional oil and gas might be crucial for Nigeria's long-term energy security and prosperity?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Something to think about, right?
It is.
Regardless of what happens with NNPC.
Absolutely.
It's about the bigger picture.
Long game.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.